Hello and welcome to Star Trek Reliant, the only show that we're doing at this current moment. I'm Deccan Haido, your lead GM, and we've got tonight a group of peoples to have some fun with tonight. Starting with Security Officer Chorog.
So many guns, so little time.
Our man out of time, DB Wells.
What's with all the crashing and the smashing, and the smashing and the crashing?
Science
I come
Officer.
home to the smashing and crashing gang.
Science Officer Garal.
Nanomachine, son.
Con Officer Cardinrani.
I'm sad that I'm flying.
And Chief Engineer Rick Tier.
I can make you not fly, or else I can make you be a fly. I'm just that fly.
All right, and tonight we are basically starting off with the USS Reliant being transitioned back from the Trident system to real space. The crew is basically on station while Trident is basically finishing up the final preparations. Ensign Moon has been given, basically the robust authority of initiating the portal. So, Geraldine, want to give me a role for Lieutenant Moon? With target of 16.
Actually, at that moment, the turbolift doors open, and Kara steps out, being followed by Ged, who's trying to get her back to the sickbay. And she just says, "Fuck off!" Ged looks shocked, even though as a Tellarite, frankly, he should be used to such language. And she goes over and looks at Moon and just jerks her thumb out of the way to tell him to leave.
Moon, without a word, just simply gives a nod and shifts over to the auxiliary chair.
Kara sits down. All right, so we're leaving.
You get that command from Captain Connor.
Okay, I've been using the other dice golem so much I forgot how to roll for a second. Give me a second.
/R and then a bunch of stuff. Or you can just use dice golem.
3 successes.
All right, and with that, a portal opens up in front of the USS Reliant, and it is sucked back through into real space, emerging a safe distance away from Starbase Magellan. The roll was basically determined if you accidentally crashed into the Starbase. So, congratulations! You have not caused a big dent in the ship and the station. Huzzah.
Kara just looks smugly and says, "Hey, look, we're back at home, closer than the place where we left."
At this, here just a second. At this, I'm just going to have to narrate this a little bit. At this, Captain Connor gets a communication from Starbase Magellan. There has been coordination between the Reliant and Starfleet Command after the resolution of the Trident problem, at least for what they can deal with right now. And basically, the ship has been ordered to enter into quarantine. So the ship is going to be scanned at Starbase Magellan. It's going to be in dock for a little while they just make sure the ship is safe and that there's no additional hitchhikers aboard, apart from the ones that have been authorized by the crew. And at this, the crew is given permission for A, short leave, but also B, to take up temporary quarters on Starbase Magellan, as it might be a few days while the quarantine scans are going through.
Kara moves the ship to dock, but also kind of puts her, leans down and puts her head on a fist and just kind of mumbles, "Okay, so are we on quarantine or are we allowed shore leave? Which is it?"
The ship is in quarantine, the crew is not. So basically, the ship is, the computer system is going to be in quarantine, let's put it that way. It's a better way of describing it. So basically,
the ship is under massive inspection.
The ship is going to be, yes, the ship is going to get really good, well scanned, cleaned, and also get some upgrades taken care of it as well. But for right now, it's basically everyone needs to get off for a little bit as we're going to do baryon sweeps and just make sure that there's nothing in the computer system or hiding in the Jeffries tubes.
Carr brings the ship into dock, and then Ged marches over and says, "All right, you did your thing. Now get the hell back to sickbay!
That's from the science station. Just basically makes finger guns towards the turbo lift and goes scoot, scoot.
Kara sighs, standing up and just says, "Yes, mommy," and she heads off with Ged.
So everyone basically is able to pack up their things, take care of what they need to, and basically head over to Starbase Magellan to begin a little bit of downtime and shore leave time.
We'll add in. Rick will coordinate with Checkers regarding getting the bees temporary hive and moving them to a safe place on the Magellan. Checkers will take lead in that. He'll just sort of provide logistical and a temporary hive while that happens.
Transporters will make that relatively easy work, fortunately enough. And basically any biological material, anything that's sensitive is able to be moved over. There's nothing going to be that's too invasive, actually not a baryon sweep, but basically just making sure that the ship is kind of in mothballs for a little bit here. John and the baby tardigrades are hard at work trying to help folks out. That leaves Daniel. You have basically a little bit of a dilemma. There's been something you've been working on, and the ship is going to be very thoroughly inspected.
Yeah. So, do we have to take up residence on Magellan?
Yes, you cannot stay on the Reliant for the coming days at least. They want everyone off the ship.
And we're not allowed to go back on during the whole thing?
Probably with very special authorization. Like, you would need to go through Captain O'Connor. And then he would have to basically okay, this person needs to go on for X, Y, and Z reason. And you'll likely be monitored over the time just to make sure that nothing kind of slips in, especially to data equipment.
Okay. Did we know about all these scanning things before we arrived at Magellan?
You got the notification when you arrived, so they basically are like, okay, Reliant safely here. Here's the procedure for how to come back into dock. You did not have that much time to prepare.
Okay. Wait a minute. So if they're just scanning, not physically inspecting everything, unless there's some kind of blip on the scanner.
I mean, there's going to be a physical inspections too. I didn't say how they would scan. It could be hand scanners. It could be full ship scanners. Thorough inspection of the ship.
Okay. Daniel will have disconnected his project at both ends from the half deck. So there's basically just make sure there's no power running to it. And then he'll just try to seal off his closet to make it look as though his room just doesn't have one.
Wait, could you repeat that one more time?
Okay, sorry. So he's gonna disconnect his project from at both ends from the machinery up in the half deck. Make sure there's no power running to it. And then try to seal up his closet to make it look as though his room just doesn't have one.
The plans of the ship will show that there should be a closet there.
Okay.
These rooms should have closets. Someone going around is well, room. It's why doesn't this one have a closet? It's okay, do we have to do a contraband sweep now too?
Okay,
You can do a roll for a quick panic and trying to decide what you should do. And that would, let's say, be insight science or insight security.
Okay, I'm gonna... because the only other thing I can think of is find a holo emitter and hope someone has a pre-programmed normal closet set projection. That's the only other thing I can think of.
Go ahead and give me a roll.
Okay. Said insight science I could do?
Yep. I'm going to spend 4th, right? Your complication range is 16.
I gotta ask, I guess. Would metalworking or sleight of hand apply?
Sleight of hand would apply.
Okay.
This is perhaps one of the best situations for sleight of hand practically in Star Trek Adventures. Besides, trying to pull a fast one. So,
Hey, I have 5 science. That's 3 successes.
3 successes. Well, basically, you know that the half deck on the USS Reliant has been something that was built onto the ship. I mean, this is just talking from other crew members about what was on there, senior crew members. But it was built onto the ship without anyone knowing. So it's basically an entire deck that was completely off Starfleet's radar. You could just move everything to the half deck and it'll probably be fine.
You know, that you make a solid point. I guess since Daniel apparently had that epiphany in time, we'll just uninstall everything from his closet, and I guess I guess he'll just kind of try and sneak it up there without anyone seeing. Ideally on some kind of cart or something with a tarp over it.
Yeah, so we can now easily have just a cart of nondescript boxes would be easily enough. You don't need to put a tarp over it because everyone's kind of moving right now. So you more or less blend into the crowd. So all you need to do is just go to the turbo lift, wait until it's basically unoccupied, which is easy because it's like, hey, I've got a cart. Well, I don't want to take it up, so yeah, go ahead of me. So yeah, eventually you're just able to get the cart to the half deck.
Yeah, and just in case anyone does come looking up on this floor, I will try to hide everything behind the bulk of the machinery that's already in there.
And hey, if anyone finds it, it's just it's just supplies for the machinery. It's not your
Some weird
stuff.
supplies. What's this crystal type thing? But it's what do I know about time machines?
I mean, we do have a temporal booth in there, so it's just you have a ready time machine, and then a bunch of random crap, and it's well, the time machine is if anyone finds this who's not supposed to, there's going to be plenty of questions they can ask. Why does a Reliant class have a half deck? And what is this weird thing on the half deck?
Yeah, if people find the half deck that don't find, there's going to be a lot bigger questions than, ooh, what's this funny thing?
Yeah, and and if anything is confiscated, it's not your problem because for all they knew, it came with a half deck.
And hopefully, even if they do try to question things, hopefully they'll be more distracted by the brick pizza oven hidden in the Jeffries tubes.
At this point, they probably it's probably a I don't call it a rumor, but it's basically a well-kept secret about how the Reliant class is the best or the USS Reliant has amazing pizza, and there's just rumors oh they have this the brick and mortar pizza oven in the Jeffries tubes. No, it's over in the captain's quarters, and yeah, so there's a lot of scuttlebutt around the Reliant's pizza at this point, but yeah.
Okay. Well, regardless, that worked out a lot simpler than I was thinking it would. And I guess Daniel then just kind of grabs his few remaining actual belongings and heads down to Magellan. Most of the crew most people on the ship have already left by now because Daniel's been busy and not moving, but he's following with the last of the crowd.
So yeah, everyone's basically, you've got a little bit of an assignment for where your quarters are going to be. Satsa has she's kind of ambling around kind of the entry point in sort of this flight concourse style area connecting the Reliant to the main docking area. It's a little bit of extra security, a little bit of extra quarantine, just to make sure folks don't get into Reliant who shouldn't be. Basically, additional security checkpoint, but she's just kind of hanging around, just seeing who's coming off the ship.
After a bit, the trio walk off the ship, each of them carrying a small box. They note Setsa wandering around, and they just walk up to her. Hello, Francesca. What are you doing?
Well, just kind of, seeing if certain people were coming down. Definitely want to check in on Kara after she made a visit to the bridge, but then also want to talk to Graves, but I don't know.
The trio just kind of look at each other and back up at her. Well, Kara's going to be staying in the sick bay. Does you need a place to stay?
Yeah, I kind of do. Like I was, I've got all my stuff here, but I kind of just held off on claiming a room yet.
Neen just looks up and just kind of says, well, you could stay with us if you want. We don't take up much room.
Sets it up right and says like, oh, yeah, that'd be grand. I mean, like, yeah, let's go ahead and do that.
Arrow nods and says, yes. Okay, what we do is, Jess pipes up immediately and says, we get a room next to sickbay to make life easy for you.
Oh, no, thanks, guys.
No worries. We go in now. You keep up good job.
She salutes and then just kind of looks around and says, I will watch over my stuff and maybe say hi to Graves if he's coming down here. But I will be by your quarters very soon.
By our quarters, Jess says. And then they pick up their little boxes and scamper off. After a few... No, go ahead. This is...
I was just going to say, Chorog, how are you doing with hauling off your weapon haul?
Well, Urton and Chorog have managed to load 4 large weapon crates onto a hover cart and are slowly moving to the airlock, holding on to them so they don't fall off.
Go ahead and give me a control security roll. Your successes, you're able to keep the boxes together and do not suffer any mishaps with regard to a large crate of weapons falling on the floor. Congratulations! You are able to effectively move your stuff over to the ship, over to Magellan.
Urton watches the boxes wobble, but keep getting pulled back into place and says, I told you duct tape would work.
Well, we're going to believe you, but it's working. I just hope when they do whatever they're going to do, they don't find my venom distillery.
I think the captain has a reasonable amount of pull. I don't think that's something they're going to care about too much.
Well, let's hope not, or else there's going to be no more venom around here.
Well, couldn't you just build another one?
I don't think Rick's going to like it if I start tearing apart ducts and conduits for another one.
You are going to be on Starbase Magellan, so Rick would not have direct oversight on the station.
Yeah, instead it'd be Captain Mercer tearing his hair out.
Well, it's a large station. You're on a frontier base.
I'm kidding. There's a lot of empty space on Magellan, even with the Ratkin.
You could even consider, is there anything like on a lower deck that might be useful? Like,
Sure, I'm going to have to explore. Maybe get the Rhea things to help him out.
Well, anyways, so we can go put the boxes away then, I guess, and do something.
Chorog exits the airlock and looks around for someone to find what quarters he's going to be assigned to.
And who should be wandering around the concourse but Setsa?
Setsa, what quarters am I going to be assigned?
Well, it's kind of a draw. Like, okay, so if you open up the link they sent you in the mail, there's like this little map, and you get to pick out where you want to go, or just like leave it to unassigned. And I think by the end of the day they'll just kind of put you somewhere.
Chorog opens his comm pad up and finds the message that was sent to him. It chooses a set of quarters far away from people.
How far? Do you want to do far, but at the edge of habitability, or far as in the bottom end of the station?
Far is in the bottom end of the station where he can be alone to do his work.
Excellent. You are at the bottom end of the station. It has barely been explored since the station has been recommissioned. Engineering teams have checked it, but it is a original 23rd century Starbase bin retrofit. That's going to be fun.
Oh, I feel like home already. Come on, Urton. We gotta set up a weapons lab and some quarters.
Okie dokie.
Rick has selected somewhere near the engineering lab.
I just want to say, after a while of you and Urton setting up your room, strangely enough, you hear someone out in the hallway, and if you care to look, Daniel is bringing his belongings into a room across the hall.
Well, there goes the neighborhood.
Rick Tier, in the meantime, has selected somewhere near the engineering bay.
Yeah, that'll be sort of a few decks down from the main promenade, but kind of in this nice little balance of, hey, you have a lot of facilities near you, but it's not that long of a walk to get to other parts of the starbase. And Grawl, how is your moving coming along?
Grow is still looking a bit worse for wear. About half of his feathers have fallen out despite the therapy, and he is currently hanging to a quarters that are near the therapist on Starbase Magellan.
I would place your quarters fairly near Setsa and the trios.
Meanwhile, for Barry is pulling a trunk of her own and also heading to the station, probably choosing to head down towards the bottom of the station as well.
A suddenly popular place.
For Barry, once you're starting to settle in, you hear a tap. It's from the window.
For Barry looks up. I thought there was no sound in space.
What you see is a tardigrade walking across the sort of the plate glass and carrying with him a set of camping supplies. John starts to pitch a tent on the outside of the starbase.
Well, maybe I should get some curtains for these windows.
And with that, one of the last, or after a brief conversation with Connor, Graves kind of just peeks down the ramp. That's still there. He sighs, starts to stroll down, looking casual. Setsa looks over, kind of gives a little bit of a wave. Graves waves too, and kind of looks down the path from the corridor. Looks back to Setsa and says, how you doing? So just gives him a bit of a look and says, well, I'm doing all right. I mean, just concerned with everything going on right now. We picked out a quarters with the trio. We're kind of over by sickbay, and he kind of leaves a hanging pause there, and Graves says, yeah, you want me to stay, or... And he kind of regrets it for a moment, and Setsa says, if you want, certainly we wouldn't mind having more company, I think. Yes, they say the trio doesn't take up much space. Graves nods. Says, all right, Setsa. Sounds fine. And with that, they just kind of give each other a nod and begin heading over to the starbase proper. As Reliant is left to undergo a little bit of R&R and a little bit of scan and maybe some upgrades. And the crew is just basically left to settle into the Starbase Magellan. Along with the instructions, you also have a pretty big, a pretty extensive list of station facilities. And last time we were here, kind of spending any amount of time on Magellan, like, you know that it's a frontier base, but at the same time, things are getting considerably more busy here. So the promenade, which was kind of in a state of like just getting set up, has expanded. There are a lot of shops available now. It seems to be that Starbase Magellan's getting a bit of a reputation for being a relatively hot point of exploration of the galaxy. People have started to compare it on the interstellar net to the next Deep Space Nine. So you have a lot of mercantile opportunities. The station has also been able to upgrade and retrofit its local accommodation. So there's parks, holodeck facilities, even some standard recreation facilities like an arcade and a bit of a public pool and water park. And yeah, generally there's a lot more going on here than you were here last time you were here.
Sometime like a few hours after things have started to quieten down, Graves gets a call from Rick Tier.
We'll work that into character. After coughing for a little bit, while still actually like after tapping the comm badge, Graves says, Graves here.
Well, we never did get to finish the rest of our experiments on the Reliant with this shape-shifting thing I picked up. Do you want to meet me down somewhere further down in the bowels of the station? Maybe giving like, I get, is it the higher the number, the lower down, or like
I would say, yeah, it's lower down, higher number.
Okay, so he'll give one of the maybe like the second last level.
Graves says, "All right, yeah, I'm just helping settle Setsa move in here. Setsa, can I go help Rick Tier test some stuff out? I won't be gone long. Do we want to do dinner with the trio?" Setsa nods and calls back. Just give us a call when you know you're going to be done. Graves is like, "Oh, all right. Rick, I'll meet you there. Right now. Just head down."
Yes, I'm slightly closer than you are, but I'll be there by the time you arrive.
All right. Sounds fun. Graves out. And yeah, with that, the two start heading downstairs. Everyone else is everyone else is kind of already down in that area. So on the bottommost level of the starbase, what is everyone up to?
Daniel's he'll want to explore later, but word has trickled down about John camping outside the ship. So he decides to replicate a bag of marshmallows, grab a portable electric cooktop, and just goes out to the surface on the outside of Magellan, just strolls up to John in his tent and just holds up the marshmallows as in like being like, "Hey, you want to roast marshmallows?"
John gives an enthusiastic, "Yeah. We make marshmallows, in vacuum, but we can do some good stuff, yes."
Yeah, I guess Daniel sets up the electric cooktop, and just opens the bag of marshmallows. By the way, I didn't mention it, but he also brought sticks, obviously. But hands John a stick,
and the two of them basically proceed to toast some s'mores. Anyone else before we get back? Anyone else before we get back to Graves and Rick? Alrighty then. Well, Rick basically and Rick and Graves meet at the designated location, the second to last level of Starbase Magellan.
Alright, so we've tested it on me. I was able to turn into a fly. But we haven't been able to test it on other parties. So did you want to test it on me? Should I test it on you? What are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, so let's take a look at the thing. Like, we've got the controls here that determines the effect. Like, and there's a little bit of a targeting system here, so do we just, point it at me and have a go from there?
I mean, if we want to be safe, we could probably just we could see if we can transform like a crate or something.
Yeah, sure, we can give that a shot.
So he'll try and use a targeting method to lock on to let's say just this like spare metal pipe that's around lying on the ground, and is just going to try and transform it into some kind of different metal shape, still keeping it essentially the same, just like still metal, still unintelligent, just a different shape. Let's say turn the pipe into a box.
It does nothing. You basically are able to give the commands in, but the device proceeds to not engage on the target.
Oh, perhaps this is only for creatures, living people.
Yeah, so like what was it like when you were like operating the fly? Was it just like a virtual interface, or did you kind of like feel like you had like the fly body? Like how organic did it feel?
It in a way it felt like I was walking, and somehow like it was as natural as walking, but it was like waving my arms around, like, but I knew to wave my arms in the right way to do it. So I guess there is definitely some kind of mental effect as well.
Yeah. Have we looked for a user manual yet?
Like he would. Was there one that came with it?
Like there was no separate documentation, but this thing has like a holographic display screen that you're able to use to like input commands and like change shapes and targets. So yeah, go ahead and give me an insight engineering roll.
All right, let's see if this thing has inbuilt documentation. I believe what's the word? Experimental technology would apply.
Absolutely, this thing is peak experimental technology.
Despite being ostensibly mass-produced.
Well, I mean, from your perspective, it's experimental technology. You're experimenting with it. It is very user-friendly. I don't want to make that a complication, though, with this threat, but I didn't say it, so... All right, one success. So you're able to basically find a little bit of a visual manual. It may not be the only documentation this thing has, but you're able to get, like, a little, like, FAQ help guide. And one of the things it says is that this is for sentient life forms only, and that the system will evaluate the degree of sentience required to operate the machine. So the other thing, too, is that for effective use, the user always has control over the morph and can exit any time. And that is why that this thing is only built for sentience. So if you try to against something non-sentient, it could be bad. So it has a little bit of a program for that.
So it appears that there's at least a fail-safe that if the person, if I, while as a fly didn't want to be, I could easily revert back to. So that should apply to you, that you should be able to control your own morph once morphed.
All right. Yeah, I guess let's give it a go then. Graves is looking at the machine and says, "This is where a lack of imagination is kind of becoming a problem."
Well, what's a human thing? You could maybe a dog.
4 legs, I'm not sure.
I mean, I could turn you into fly, what I was.
No. More legs, I don't know. Like, maybe just, like, different humanoids. Because, I mean, if we're thinking about this thing practically, like, infiltration as a fly is a great thing, but then there's also other types of, like, recon we could do.
All right, well, just trying to think what kind of race would we turn you into, Chemadar?
Actually, no, I got it. Let's try Ibby. That should give Setsa a laugh.
All right, let's see. See here, and he'll start fiddling with the settings, see if he can come up with something that would do Ibby and.
Yes. So this would take, it's got a little bit of a built-in scanner system, but you definitely need to give it some data here on a new form. So yeah, so what you would have to do is just basically link up your tricorder, give it some, species profile data, and the system should take care of it from there. So go ahead and give me a control engineering roll. And I will spend 2 threat.
I can't remember what my control is. Let me look up my character sheet. My control is 11. Do we have any momentum by any chance?
Probably have at least one from when W or DB totally hid all of his stuff.
You've also got one from Kara's Masterful, so you've got 2 momentum right now, because Kara did a masterful job getting the Reliant back to real space.
Because, it's Kara, that's what our job is.
Okay, then I'll use one of those momentum for an extra dice, and cautious command, just in case. And you said 2 bad complication?
Yeah, 2 is a complication, so we shall see how this goes. 4 successes. Yeah, you're able to basically feed it IBI data, but you're also, while you're at it, able to feed it a lot of different Federation species. So you're well ahead of the game and giving this thing a great library of species to be able to kind of replicate things on the fly. No pun intended. And yeah, basically this task is not going to be something you'll have to worry about for a while. Graves, meanwhile, and says, all right, let's see. Yeah, let me just input some parameters here, and let's give it a go. And he will go ahead and make a similar roll to see how this turns out.
I know it's not, but somehow in my head, this thing has a big lever on the side, like a, slot machine.
There's one device from Futurama that basically replicates that perfectly. But yeah, this is basically, it looks kind of like an alien toaster oven with a display on the side and just a lot of weird, emitters facing the group, but or facing the target. But basically, yeah, the Graves, basically with a little bit of a bloop sound, turns into an IBI. Basically, all his standard parameters. He's got a little bit of speckling, but he now has long ears, kind of the slightly bony forehead, little plates on the nose, and a tail. Graves is like, how'd it do?
Well, you are an IBI, and he will try to rig up his tricorder as a camera to holo imager to give Graves a look at himself.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's definitely IBI. So, cool. Yeah, I mean, this is definitely going to make certain away missions a lot easier, because yeah, we'll be able to blend in pretty darn easily. Although we probably should check to see how many people this can support simultaneously, because yeah, the mass energy conversion is probably giving it a bit of a power draw.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I'm surprised that I haven't actually had to recharge it with what we've done with it. So we'll have to delve into the documentation a bit more. But for now, did you want to go see Setzer again?
Yeah, Kara's also going to get a good laugh out of this, so yeah, let's go ahead and check in on them. Although, meanwhile, Kara, I mean, do you want to be checking into sickbay?
I mean, it's Kara, so obviously no, she doesn't. But there's only so much argument you can put up. So she ends up being checked into sickbay, where there's actually a new CMO on the station. A somewhat familiar name. Kara reads down it, looks at the name, and says, "Oh no. No, not him."
There's a smell of barbecue wafting from sickbay. It's a very distinctive smell.
Kara pinches the bridge of her nose and just says, "Azra." She turns and goes through the door. She figures if she follows the smell, she'll find the man.
Azra is not difficult to find. He's basically just going over some medical equipment.
Kara just basically looks at him and says, "So, You're not usually supposed to have food in a lab, so what are the ramifications of having a barbecue in sickbay?
Haas returns brightly and says, Commander, dang it. Wrong timeline. Lieutenant Commander Giordani, it's an absolute pleasure, and I will have you know that this is not a authentic barbecue smoke. It's totally simulated with the highest standards of medical hygiene and decontamination procedures. The real barbecue is over there. It's in one of the decontamination rooms. Very secure as well.
There's a slight silence, and then Kara just says, I'm not sure if that makes me feel better or not. Anyway, I'm here to check in, unfortunately.
Osra says, yes, I've been reviewing some records that have been sent my way, and yes, come sit over here. And Hazra just gracefully steps over to the biobed, and while you've seen this man work in many different contexts, he is very smooth while guiding you over to the biobed. He is definitely in his element more than you've ever kind of seen him, just from his implicit body language. He's still a goofball, but at the same time, it's like, okay, you're seeing something a little bit more to Hazra from this new relationship of him being your actual doctor.
Well, to be fair, a long time ago, Kara also did get a peek under the mask, as it were. She sighs and goes over and sits down on the bed and says, all right, now what?
Now I will scan, and he kind of looks over and to the sound of someone else entering sick bay, and it's like, oh yes, I should have expected this. And Setsa is kind of standing in the doorway, looking at Hazra. Then she looks down to Kara and just kind of cries out, "Don't make her into a pork roast!"
Kara just kind of gives a slight smirk and says, hey, Usajalia, meet our new doctor.
At Usajalia, Hazra kind of blinks for a second, and then Setsa just points a finger at Hazra and says, "Doctor?" And just her brain kind of going out to lunch. And Hazra says, Yes. I am IFAR's premier biomedical specialist, and I've chosen to come out of retirement for an assignment with a growing alliance of species. And, of course, IFAR is becoming a little bit more involved in this project as well, but you will hear about that in due course. For now, let's just focus on the patient, who must undergo sensitive counseling. So if you could, he kind of gives a little bit of a scooting gesture and says, all right, well, I need to get stuff taken a look at here too, but you best not do anything,
Kara just holds up a hand and says, she can stay. She's just going to hear about it from me later anyway, so let's just cut out the middleman. And then she turns and lies back on the biobed.
As you wish, and Hazra proceeds to do an incredibly thorough scan and model a set of computer modeling work on Kara's condition.
While this is going on, Kara's just kind of leaning back and just thinking, right, so you're suddenly CMO of a Starfleet station, the only Starfleet station where the majority of the IBI in Starfleet are currently assigned. What a coincidence!
Well, what a coincidence that the IBI have decided to set up an embassy on Starbase Magellan, but one thing at a time.
Kara just coughs again. What?
Yeah, the IBI administration has decided to become a bit more proactive in its cooperations, and we are going to be assisting Starfleet in its exploration efforts at this point, seeing as the Romulan Republic and Nybride Alliance are also contributing to these efforts, and the Klingon Empire as well, though that's currently not terribly well publicized at the moment.
Kara blinks and then looks over at Setsa and just says, is this good or bad?
Setsa blinks and is just in compute mode, and she says, maybe.
Right. And Kara goes back to just being scanned without saying any more.
So the scan results finish up, and I kind of leave it to you to give the prognosis for Kara.
Azra steps over to the, scanner and looks, interesting. Very interesting. Did you know you don't have any DNA? Kara looks up and says, I have been told that, yes. Azra looks over from behind the scanner. You know that's a problem, right? Kara sighs and says, I have been told that, yes. Osric just looks at the overview and just says, Nope, don't know what to do.
Setsa just sighs heavily and says, come on. You built me. Come on.
I built you over a segment of time, and I had DNA samples and extensive equipment to work with. I have no DNA sample from Miss Junrani. Not that I'd be able to get one from her now. And I do not have the equipment that I had at the time which you were created. On the other hand, you are right about one thing. We definitely need a new body here.
Yeah, well, I mean, Kara's DNA is going to be on Starfleet record through the transporter system and biomedical scans, so that's not too hard to come by. Like, replication, I mean, if you need, basically tissues to start harvesting that DNA with, I mean, I'll certainly donate, so...
I'm afraid it's not quite that simple. Even at an accelerated pace, growing the necessary body would take a great deal of time. And then, of course, you have the issue of moving across the personality. You see, the problem is that Setsa, you were... Well, you're a copy. So, of course, Velia still exists and is out there. You have Velia's memories and some of her impulses, but you are not Velia. And unfortunately, with what I know how to do, that's essentially what you would have. You would have someone with Kara's memories and some of her impulses, but you would not have Kara.
And such as just her ears actually slightly droop.
So, as it currently stands, Kara's body has perhaps another week, maybe 2 at best, before it dies.
So that's is just super drooping in the chair.
At this point, one of the monitors in the sickbay flashes on, and I'm going to give Hazra back to you because Kieran appears on the monitor. There is another option.
Ah, yes. And you are?
Oh, pardon my interruption. I'm Kieran. I'm a sibling to, well, Setsa. And
from...
also Sabatu, and it's a long story.
Oh, from those projects. They don't often did their own thing. I tried to give them advice, but no, they are insistent on you can control the fungus and use the administrative program. It was just a mess. So, yeah.
Kieran visibly shivers on the screen and says, let's not talk about any more fungus.
Yes. So, yes. What might we be able to do?
Well, as you know, Setsa's brain is partially positronic, and my own entire personality is based on that of Ibby brainwaves. Therefore, you just need a body that is capable of holding such. And I know that one exists because it was once designed for me. Or at least promised to me. And as it would just so happen, I happen to know where it is.
Do you? And Hazra just has a very, very broad smile.
There's a bit of static and fuzzing on the monitor as it goes into something which is obviously a replay of previous time. The group from Reliant appears in a very dusty laboratory, and at the back is the android Apathy, who suddenly announces, "Ah, yes, Epitaph. That's where it is." Where what is? The body. I was sent here several years ago to remove the body and take it to Epitaph. There's more scrambling on the screen before Kieran's face reappears.
Setsa at this moment stands up and just announces, "Bring me Zasia's havoc."
Kieran looks around at the edges of the screen he's on and just says, "What if I just send him a message?"
That to make sure he doesn't get off the station.
Well, I'm pretty sure he can't leave anyway.
Oh, we need to track him down. I'll have Grave to do it.
Message has been sent.
All right. So we just need to get to Epitaph and get Kara's body back from them, or get Kieran's body back and give that to Kara, and eventually make a new body for Kieran too.
Oh no, I'm quite happy as I am. Actually, I'm planning to ask Admiral Futagami if I can be allowed to remain on the Reliant as the ship's AI.
Oh, Cool. So, how are we going to get to Epitaph?
That I cannot help you with. I don't even know where it is. But you do know who does know. That Zashius fellow and that very odd android.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if Apathy still actually has that memory. He might just pretend to. So definitely we'll coordinate with Havoc.
At that point, you actually see Kieran start to fidget and says, well, if he doesn't actually have that memory, then they don't actually have the body, and then we have a problem.
Well, like knowing where the planet is exactly.
Anyway, I'll leave you to it. Goodbye, sister. And he winks
Thanks,
out.
Karen. And she just kind of looks over to Kara and Hosra and say, so just kind of wait in the meantime?
Very much, yes, that. Actually, the best thing for her right now is bed rest. Any injury that she were to suffer would be practically unhealable, and would obviously accelerate the deterioration of her body. So I'm afraid that she's on light duty at best.
All right. We'll keep her well insulated.
Kara grumbles, but can't really do anything about this.
All right. Well, thanks, Hosra.
Of course. I'm sorry I couldn't be of more help, but at least we have a probable solution.
All right. All right. Well, I'll help Kara along and send some messages, and she just says, kind of in a quite serious tone, "I will find Zashius Havoc."
Kara just sighs and says, talk to him first, Usajalia. Don't hurt him. Yet.
Well, I mean, if I talk and he bolts, I should probably incapacitate him first.
In that case, check to make sure your phaser is on stun now before you leave. You don't want to be making that mistake.
Oh, no, I was thinking about, trip lines and stuff.
Bye, Usajalia.
And with that, let's go ahead and take a quick 5-minute bio break.
5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever.
Radical.
Yay!
By the way, just wanted to mention real quick, if we need to...
Welcome back to Star Trek Reliant. I have no idea why I did that. So, our crew has basically been settling into Starbase Magellan, and we have just processed some medical news for Kara Gianrani. Rectier, where are you at the present?
Rick here and Graves, it was going to check in with Kara and Setsa.
Oh, I'm joking here on some popcorn. Just a second. But yeah, Kara, take it.
Sorry, wait, what?
Just a second.
Yeah, I was about to say I was not prepared to take anything.
Okay, so Rick...
Yeah, so Rick sort of leads in, probably originally checks the logs, finds that Setsa was set at near the sick bay, and then notes that Kara has been logged into the sick bay. So, well, go to Setsa's quarters or the sick bay first.
Well, to make life easy on Duncan, why don't you just head to the sick bay first?
Yeah, we'll probably just to the sick bay since, so he makes a comment, well, Setsa probably actually is at the sick bay, so we'll just go there, and it's Rick here that enters first with, you see him smiling this odd smile that I don't think Hazra or Setsa or Kara has seen him smile before.
Except maybe for one of the first 2 episodes, I'm not sure if Hazra and Rick have met for a while. But anyway, Kara just kind of looks up from a datapad where Setsa is recommending various books. Oh, hi, Rick.
Well, settled in?
As much as I can be. I'm growing old at an incredibly accelerated rate. If I get injured, I probably can't heal, and I'm likely to die within the next 2 weeks. How are you?
Well, comparatively speaking, I am fine.
Setsa raises a hand and proudly declares, "But Kara will be fine. We have a plan in motion, and we just need Zashius Havoc. So, yeah, I'm gonna I want to say hunt him down, but yeah, we'll get this sorted.
Okay.
I just wanted to see the look on your face when I laid all that out.
Yeah. So the smile sort of droops and just sort of like goes into sort of like a more stoic sort of like flat expression.
I mean, the situation is obviously not particularly positive, but there is hope on the horizon.
And
For the meantime, however, I'm confined to bed rest.
I didn't Hazro? Is that I've seen you?
Oh
for-
yes, the old man, as it turns out. Well, he's come out of retirement back to the job he used to do. Medical genius he is.
Yeah, if you do say so. I am quite skilled and I'm capable of handling some additional medical needs while you are on Starbase Magellan.
As long as you can handle his eccentricities.
Speaking of eccentricities, Graves?
Graves kind of peeks out of the corner and does a ta-da!
Kara looks over. Graves? And obviously there's a question mark at the end of that is large and questioning.
Setsa has just a what expression. Graves says, yeah, we're playing around with the shape-shifting device. So, yeah, I'm in Ibby right now.
Kara blinks and says, she looks around and, am I on camera? Am I being punked?
No. I just thought it would be funny.
I mean, we
Kara
are
blinks several times.
we are at sick bay. Hazra maybe could verify?
Azra takes a scan over Graves and says, yes, I am reading that you are a morphogenic matrix pretending to be an Ibby. Quite a remarkable technology. So, yeah, basically, it's more like it actually does not appear to be Ibby. On the scan, like the tricorder can see right through it. It's basically, yeah, you're not actually an Ibby. You are a modified construct right now, basically, like an Ibby, like morphogenic matrix. That's what founders and founder-like technology have used. So, yeah, basically, you're reading as a shapeshifter when using this.
Huh. Does this mean you're going to get as addicted to Unip as her? And Kara just kind of gestures at Setsa.
Setsa blinks and says, you best not take my Unip. Graves says, no.
Kara rolls her eyes. It comes from the replicator. There's an infinite amount.
I have a special supply.
So that's what you keep in that box.
Yeah. My Unip. It's my special Unip, and he can't have it. She points a finger, and Graves says, all right, yeah, no. I'll go. I'll turn back. Don't worry. And she just says, good.
I do recommend trying it out while you have the body. Who knows? Perhaps it is something species related.
Yeah, I can give it a shot. So definitely a plan. Like, I'll make sure we get Zazius, and yeah, we'll take care of your car.
If you can manage it, grab Apathy as well.
He's easy.
That's true. Just dangle some ice cream over a snare.
Oh, ask him.
Where's the fun in that?
I don't know where to go with that.
Basically, at this point, it would be a natural segue to talking about the memorial event you've got coming up.
Oh,
I'm sorry, I just love the idea of putting an ice cream cone down with a snare around it, and 2 seconds later you've got Apathy hanging upside down.
Well, I mean, speaking with about events and stuff, there is a tradition, a sword tradition that just happens to be coming up tomorrow. I was able to book a holodeck. It's the day of destruction, the day when our regional homeworld was destroyed, and I'd like to offer you, and I will be sending a message in a moment out to the rest of the crew, if you would like to join in the holodeck.
Kara sighs and looks over at Hazra and just says, the best I can do is a hollow presence. Sorry. On the other hand, if you ask the trio, they should be quite interested.
All right, and he actually pulls out his tricorder, not tricorder, but pad, and actually adds a trio to the notes. I don't think he was originally planning on sending an invite to the trio.
Aw, poor little rats were left out.
They are not left out now. Graves says, "Yeah, I'm definitely in." Setza says, "Well, I'll just put tabs on Zacius and I'll be right down."
All right. For those who are coming, I would. Part of the tradition is tokens of things that you may have lost or left behind, and another token for what like drives you. What's your duty? What sort of drives you moving forward?
Yeah, I think I've got something in mind.
All right. Well, I'll leave you guys to it and organize the rest of the senior crew.
The rest of the crew gets notifications and meeting time, and Setza also sends a message over to Eli, basically inquiring about Zacius, and basically saying that she needs to track him down. And basically at that point, Eli begins to help Zacius hide in the Jeffrey stoops for a little bit.
Aura just kind of nods to Rick and says, "Well, thanks for visiting. Sorry I can't make it. I'll try and make the next one if able."
It is a yearly anniversary.
Well, hopefully I'll be around to see the next one.
Setza says, "And you'll definitely will be, don't worry."
Everything will be fine. You cannot stop it.
Setza is determined.
Setza has ominous positivity.
She is already calculating eventualities out, including conquering the conclave.
All right. Well, I am suddenly getting a vibe. So, see ya. And he just sort of fast walks out of there.
Graves follows.
So yeah, Daniel, Churog, the trio sets Graves,
Grawl
all get the notification.
The trio send back a response that they'll be there as a group.
Barry as well.
Yeah, Goral sends back a reply saying that he has a therapy session for that time, but wishes the best, although for Barry might be available.
Charles replies he'll be there.
Daniel doesn't reply for at least 15 minutes, but then sends a message asking Rick if he can help Daniel with some design something in the replicator, or for the replicator.
Rick will send a message back saying, "Sure. Where do you want to meet?"
Daniel doesn't really know where the best place to design something for a replicator is, so he just says engineering ?
The engineering lab is probably a good place to go.
Yeah. I mean, we could try doing it at a replicator, but the engineering lab probably does have more facilities. So he sends you a little a ping marker location, so you get to follow it and follow the station's map and get to the engineering lab.
Daniel will follow the big yellow quest arrow.
As you approach, you see Rick T with a giant question mark over his head.
Actually, when I had this mental image of DB starting to walk along, and he starts to turn down the wrong hallway, and all the lights in that hallway go off, and Magel's voice just says, "Not that way."
Little hologram of the words "wrong way" with a U-turn symbol pop up.
All right.
Yeah. Sorry.
So I've loaded the matrices ready that replicators use to create things. What are you wanting to create?
Uh, should we play this out as a scene, or should I just describe what Daniel places down during the ceremony?
Yeah,
I would just describe it because we've got about 15 minutes.
yeah, we can
Okay.
we can pause this so about spend the rest of the day sort of figuring out the actual design, what it's made of, all the nitty gritty details that you would have to do, and at the end, DB has his little creation there, with tokens. So the next day, early in the morning, is when the scheduled thing for the holodeck is. Rick is there early. He's already had it programmed. It's ready. As the first people, who would be the first person to come in?
Probably the trio, since they tend to be early for most things.
Yeah. So as the trio come in, there's like two little pillars that are on this like little. I'm not going to say stage, but sort of like
Dais?
dais patio kind of area that then falls away into like a stellar sort of like looking at a star and a planet. In the distance, this star is like a red giant, and the planet seems seemingly like, an M-class planet with signs of civilization. You could probably guess that this is old Saw. And on this like little patio area are these two pillars, but in between there's this like little like dong, like this 4 inches in diameter, with a little mallet resting beside it.
The trio kind of look around for a minute and then just walk over, and they just kind of hug Rick's legs, and then Jess looks up at him and says, "Sorry you lost your world. We know what that's like."
I was born after it happened, but it has been a big impact for my people, and
The trio nod, and they just kind of move off to the side and wait quietly.
The feeling of pressure at Rick's legs does not go away.
Eh?
Sensing hugs, John has spore jumped in and is giving Rick a hug as well.
The trio are startled slightly because they can't really detect John very well. So the fact that he's suddenly there just makes them jump slightly and squeak. But then they're calmed down instantly when they say it's just John.
Yeah, Rick sort of just like pats, like it can't like properly like pat, but he can like tap up and down.
John says, "We give good support hugs. Oh, for thing I brought, like, so I've got my comm badge because it keeps me going and motivated. And for thing I lost, here is the first comm badge I have." And he holds up like this really blasted and twisted comm badge, and he says, "I kind of lost it that day, but I was helping people when something would go boom boom." And that reminds me of a thing I lost. I lost like pens, but it was fine because I didn't lose people.
And Rick just sort of nods at that.
And John just goes and sits down.
The trio just kind of look at each other in the back at Rick. Are we supposed to talk about what we brought?
Well, I was waiting for other people to come before we talk about that, but if you wanted
I mean, this is the opportunity for anyone to stroll in.
Charles wanders in. There's something off about him, but no one can quite place what it is.
For Barry also shows up a few moments later and kind of hangs out towards the back.
Seth said Marcus arrived, and Marcus is back in human form. And Graves gives a nod to Rick as the pair of them sit down, and Setsa starts to set up a hollow emitter for Kara.
After a few moments, there's the vision of Kara's upper torso, and she just kind of waves, "Hey."
Setsa's holding the hollow emitter, so in turn, she is able to move Kara around to give her better views.
So, I mean, I might have mentioned some of the history occasionally, but this is probably the first time that I've actually sort of gone through it from start to finish. Our people had known that our star was going to go nova for some time. Solar flare activity, coronal mass ejections had expanded not only in frequency but intensity. And, well, the star was getting bigger and we knew what that meant. So we tried. Our society, we started to progress towards warp technology. And after some initial tests, we were promising, but we didn't have the power to dedicate more than maybe a small bubble centimeters in size. Totally unfeasible for any kind of space travel or deployment. So that's what we did. We devoted our energy into energy production, fusions, but even that wasn't enough till we were able to develop our own antimatter matter reaction and deploy that in our warp core. And as Rick is speaking, you see this lone sort of vehicle, like a little puff of smoke and fire, of flame, sort of merge from the surface and sort of fly over the head of over the head as a whoop jump, just sort of like goes right over the dais. And that was when our luck changed. We met the Federation. An Akira class vessel warped in as well, showing the Federation. The word Valkyrie is plainly to see. The USS Valkyrie was the first ship, and they gave us the time, the support, and the encouragement that we needed to turn what was our first warp probe into a fleet of ships that we could take our people from this doomed world to our new home, new shore. And as just like the first vessel came, more like launches from the surface, ship after ship after ship sort of arrived, and then at once they vanished away as they warped to a new system. Though it did take time. All this time, our old planetary councils, the Wung government stayed to manage and control and to ensure that no soul was left behind on the planet. And it was then in their last vessel that we lost. A solar flare disabled and destroyed the ship. And that sort of plays out once again while Rick was speaking. And days later, the planet itself, as the star that was in the background shrinks, its red going intensely bright, and then suddenly a pulse, a shock wave ripples through the star, turning into just a massive cloud and debris of gas, of small chunks and rock, just sort of like hurtling towards the group, it vaporized the planet and just sort of like as if, just sort of like envelops around the group. That day, we lost our home world, but we didn't lose each other. We didn't lose what we were. We didn't lose hope, and we didn't lose our drive to push forward. We all, some ways, have lost something, but the future is yet to be written. And with that, can I ask everyone to bring up and describe the tokens they have, what they lost, what they found, and why these things mean to them, and what these things mean to them.
So first of all, I'll say that Larissa, Ged, O'Connor, and Bryce are all there as well, and they provide sort of the first round of items. Graves is up next, and he holds up basically holds up a gauntlet and says, so yeah, this is something we picked up on Trident. It's a Conclave gauntlet, and as some of you are quite aware, I picked up a little bit of a cybernetic hitchhiker along the way here. So, yeah, as far as like talking about losses, well, kind of his loss, and losses of my own too. But right now, I kind of feel what he's going through a little bit keenly. So, yeah, Conclave Gauntlet here. That's the first thing. As far as what keeps me going, well, I mean, kind of cheated a little bit, but yeah, I have a little bit of a fragment of Reliant. Kind of a souvenir from when we first took battle damage, and yeah, kind of keep it with me, and yeah, keeps me going. Just knowing the crew's going. We're doing our mission and helping folks out. So thanks, and yeah, thanks, Rick, for hosting this event.
This is not the first time. Every time someone brings up the tokens and explains them, there's the gong. Rick picks up the gong and the mallet and hits the gong as they sort of like remembrance to say that this is the past and we have a future.
After Marcus goes, the trio just kind of look around, and since nobody else is moving yet, they kind of scamper up and just eventually they kind of pull something out and raise something up, and it's actually just appears to be a rusty and dented can of some sort of vegetable. The label appears to be mostly illegible, and they just kind of set it down, and Neen just kind of looks at it and says, so, this is from Riothea. This is from the homeworld. Just nods and says, yes, just nothing special, just canned vegetables, but is a reminder of the home we have lost. Our world is not gone like Rick's is gone, but it's too cold there now for us. We can't live there anymore. Well, maybe we can if Federation helps us make settlement, but our arrow just kind of elbows her as she goes off track and just, oh, right. But now she digs around in a pocket real quick and holds up actually a very small, slightly rusty bolt and just kind of shows that around and just says, but this is a symbol of what keeps us going, what makes us happy. This is from Magellan when Overhauls was being done. Is home for all Riothans now, from those that had been taken a long time ago to those who were still on the homeworld. It's because of Federation that we still has a chance to go on and become betters. Neen nods and says, my associate is not terribly good with words, but we owe a great debt to the Federation for this chance at our species' continued survival. And we will make the most of it.
The gong once again sounds as Rick hits it and waits for the next one.
Charles decides to go next. He steps forward and opens his day bag and pulls out a rather dented and charred-looking emblem. As far as my past, this belonged to a good friend of mine. Grew up together. We did our first mission together. And sadly, he died in my arms. This is my past. This is the pain of his death has stayed with me for a long time. Puts the item down. As far as what keeps me going, pulls a small leather patch out of his bag and puts down this is the emblem of my clan. This is what keeps me going. This is what drives me to go forward every day. He solemnly puts the patch down and takes a step back.
I guess Daniel walks forward. He's just kind of been hanging out in the corner for most of this time, and he's only carrying one object. It looks like just an ordinary menorah that's would be readily available on Earth from the 21st century. It's nice looking, silver plated and all that, but it's pretty tarnished in some spots. Got a couple chips, some what looks like old melted wax running down a couple of the arms. He just kind of holds this up, gestures to it, then puts one candle in the center, lights that, raises it up again, and then just says, "Enough said," and walks away.
The trio look utterly confused, as does Kara.
I guess Faberry comes up next, and her eyes are already watering as she opens up her bag and removes a bottle of Mirador. My adopted Oftair, he was a merchant who brewed this. He adopted me from he adopted me when the refugee ship came to Tanindra 5. The Bessarians had taken over our homeworld. I had lost everything. My family was gone. He recently died in a accident. What I keep with me is she pulls out a stuffed bunnycorn. This is Mr. Flopsy. This was the last thing my original parents gave to me. They wanted me to keep going on. I don't know what happened to them. They disappeared in the chaos as the Bessarians took over our planet.
Once again, the gong rings out as Faberry speaks, and that's, I believe, the last of it. Or does Setsa have something?
Setsa goes up and kind of places down a small little black fragment and says, "Well, I mean, something that I know was really taken away, but this is one of the Borg implants that one of the last ones I had removed, and I mean, the Borg takes a lot out of you, and it takes a long time to recover, and you're always kind of left with that residual echo of the people you kind of knew when you're connected. So pulling this out is, not just, well, it's something I wanted, but it's also something that I know a lot of other people want, and just losing it just represents a lot, and we'll see what comes of it at the grand scheme. As far as what keeps me going, I'll got a couple things together, and she holds up a couple of small bands and says, "Well, these are my Usajiro little rings that to know." Oh, friendship for Hibby, and that's also what keeps me going. Just knowing the people I care about and the people that I just want to do right by. Yeah, just thanks all.
And with that, the last gong sounds, and that is the end of what I had planned. Thank you for doing this with me. It wouldn't feel right doing this alone.
The trio nod and they just kind of wander over and hug Rick's legs again. Then they just kind of set up and just kind of give everybody a hug.
Yeah, Rick sort of sort of brings in and hugs back and brings John in and whoever else wants to join in this giant group hug that is starting to form.
Setsa brings over Kara, who just kind of mimes being part of the group hug.
Rice manages to also be included in the group hug, but he is a little unused to these kinds of group gestures.
Daniel just kind of looks at the group hugs that starts happening, kind of a weird look on his face, and he just kind of turns around and leaves the holodeck without saying a word.
The trio just kind of notice and just kind of think to themselves that they should talk to him later. They're very confused about everything going on with him.
Charles watches the group hug taking place, kind of does a small head bow and turns and wanders off.
Yeah, Rick T does make notice to give Charog a nod, and Daniel sort of also sort of make a curious grin, but no, like a curious look, but is focuses back on the group and well, the time of the holodeck is actually starting to run out.
Graves nods and says, "Yeah, so thanks everyone for coming, and basically take care as we have a little bit of rest and relaxation, but certainly don't be strangers. We're still a crew here, and we'll have our ship back soon enough."
Kara nods and just says, "Well, you know where I'll be. I'm not going anywhere." The trio just kind of, form up and just say, "We'll talk to anybody who wants to talk. We sometimes good at listening."
All right, well, I'll be now in my quarters. I actually want to make something now. And with that, Rick also leaves.
So, quick question for Kara. So, as Kara has been basically partially augmented, does she still have her control systems? Like for remotely accessing technology?
She never had any. Okay. I guess she does have some for Trident, but
yeah. So there's okay. So I just wanted to check in with capabilities there.
Yeah, the things she could do because she's partially a Trident caretaker. It's not got any real ability to interface with Starfleet things.
Gotcha. And with that, let's go ahead and call the end of the official episode there and allow for basically after the credits scenes. Thanks everyone for joining. And basically for right now, anyone have anything last they want to take care of here?
I'll go last.
I guess just a follow-up of Daniel arrives back in his room on Magellan, sets the menorah down. The candles burned most of the way down, but after he sets it down on a table or some kind of surface, he just blows it out instead of letting it burn itself out. That's just a little scene that shows that.
Cut briefly to a scene of hallway, Starbase Magellan. A Romulan runs quickly by, pursued by Nibby. Camera keeps panning.
She yells out, "Stop in the name of the law! My law! Because I made it up!"
Rick, did you want to do an after credit scene for what Rick's working on?
Nah.
Okie dokes. So, everyone else good before we go over to Chorog? Take that as a yes. Chorog, take it away.
Chorog is walking back to his quarters from the ceremony. He walks in, Urton's in there, clearing out some junk from a corner. You've done enough for now, and I kind of want to be alone.
Okay. Have a good night and all that. And the Easel just kind of waves and heads out.
After Urton leaves, Chorog walks over the door and locks the door. He goes over to a chair that he had assembled. He opens one of his boxes, pulls out a ceremonial candle and a pad, lights the candle, and starts reading the pad. Same message he got before. The more he reads it, the more he's convinced he knows what's going to happen. It's not going to be good news. And odds are what's going to happen is going to be the end of him. Jorg picks up another pad and starts composing a message to both Kara and Duncan. It starts off, if you're reading this, I'm probably dead.
Dun dun dun.
I think that's a good spot to end it.
And yeah, thanks for everyone for joining us. And we will be back with more adventures next time. Definitely take care, everyone. And our email is reliant@starbasecg.com. You can find us variously around the interwebs. And thanks again for everyone joining us tonight. And with that, let us say bye now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Also, Chorog, you wrote that letter to the DM and not the character.